Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, a really vast canvas. We're looking at over 6 decades of military innovation in Pakistan.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. Charting this evolution, it required a massive shift in thinking, didn't it? Moving from the very physical, the loud stuff.
The roar of tanks, the thump of artillery, very tangible.
Exactly. Moving from that steel to the silent, almost abstract power of code, algorithms, AI, drones.
It's a huge technological leap.
Yeah.
But the sources we've looked at, they suggest the underlying drive that's stayed consistent.
Yeah, this idea that technological evolution isn't just a nice to have, it's, well, fundamental. Non-negotiable for survival, for sovereignty.
That framing is spot on, and that's our mission here, really, to unpack how and why these shifts happened.
Right.
We want to understand the strategy behind it all, looking at how successive leaders in Pakistan prioritize very different kinds of military tech to face these evolving security challenges.
From building the first factories right up to today's digital defense systems.
Exactly. We're basically tracing the line from, let's say, needing to import basic heavy gear all the way to mastering things like artificial intelligence. It's quite the arc.
And the sources, they structure this really helpfully, I thought, almost chronologically by leader.
Yeah, it's like a 4-act play, as you said. It pins the technological focus to specific eras defined by the leaders driving that vision.
We've got Field Marshal Ayub Khan, then General Zia-ul-Haq,
Then General Pervez Musharraf, and finally Field Marshal Syed Munir today.
It gives us a clear sort of lineage, a way to track the changes.
Definitely. You can see the transition clearly from that initial push for industrial independence, then securing strategic deterrence, and finally, getting that edge in the information age, digital superiority.
And each leader was dealing with the pressures of their specific time, right? Geopolitics, the available tech.
Absolutely. But underlying it all, according to the analysis, is that same core goal, making sure the nation could act independently, technologically speaking.
Okay, so let's jump in. Where does it start? The foundation. Right, let's dig into that first phase. Field Marshal Ayub Khan's time. The sources call it the Steel Era, which makes sense.
It does.
If you look at the situation right after independence, Pakistan inherited military equipment, sure, but not the factories to build or even maintain it long term.
No real industrial base for defense.
So the absolute necessity, it seems, was establishing that domestic capability, moving away from just relying on imports.
Well, that necessity came straight out of the geopolitical playbook, didn't it? Relying on foreign suppliers. It always leaves you vulnerable.
How so, specifically?
Well, think about it. Your military readiness depends on the political mood of whoever's selling you the gear. In a crisis, maybe spare parts get delayed, or ammunition shipments are halted.
Or full-on arms embargo.
Exactly. Used as political leverage, it means your sovereignty is basically conditional. So the sources really emphasize that the Ayub Khan era was about removing that conditionality, building the actual physical defense industry.
Laying the foundation, a core act of national security.
Absolutely non-negotiable for them.
It makes total sense. Relying on external supply chains is it's a massive strategic weakness. But what's striking is the ambition here, the scale of the institutions they needed to set up.
Oh, yeah.
The sources pinpoint 2 key pillars that really started this whole journey towards self-reliance.
Yes. Heavy industries, Taxila, HIT, and the big expansion of the Pakistan Ordnance factories, POF.
Right. And these weren't small steps.
Not at all. This was a huge state-level commitment to heavy engineering manufacturing. POF, for instance, it grew incredibly fast, from just basic assembly to this massive industrial complex.
Making what specifically?
Pretty much everything from small arms, ammunition, up to sophisticated artillery shells, medium guns, the works. And the scale, tens of thousands of skilled workers involved. The sources suggest it was as much a national industrial project as a purely military one.
That's a powerful image. Moving from relying on foreign assembly lines to seeing tanks and equipment rolling out under Pakistani hands. What about HIT specifically? That's often associated with the really heavy stuff.
HIT was absolutely critical for heavy armor and military vehicles. We're talking maintenance, repair, eventually license production, overhauling things like tanks, armored personnel carriers, APCs.
So keeping the existing gear running, upgrading it, fixing it, all domestically.
Exactly. It drastically cut down the reliance on foreign technical help, which could be, switched off for political reasons. It extended the life of crucial equipment. The sources really hammer this home as the vital first step towards self-reliance in the most basic physical sense of warfare. Steel.
Okay, so let's connect this back to the long-term strategy, the core lesson the sources pull from this era. Technology equals sovereignty. It becomes much clearer now. This wasn't just about buying stuff.
Precisely. It was about building an enduring national capability. If you own the means of production for your heavy equipment, for the steel itself, you guarantee a degree of political independence. No foreign power can just flick a switch and undermine your defense preparedness.
If you control the supply chain for your tanks, your ammo, your guns.
You control your policy options. Ayub Khan's focus really set that precedent. Military innovation is tied directly to political independence, and you have to see how foundational this was. Without that industrial base from the steel era, the later advancements like missiles or digital warfare, they just wouldn't have been possible. The basic engineering skills, the industrial know-how, the human capital, it wouldn't have existed domestically. It built the scaffolding for everything that followed.
It's really hard to grasp the complexity of that initial shift, going from almost total foreign dependence to eventually designing and building your own main battle tanks. That steel foundation was clearly vital for what came next. Okay, so if the Ayub era was about laying down that steel foundation, the industrial base, then the next phase, under General Zia-ul-Haq, the sources call this the shield era. That sounds like a shift towards deterrence.
A massive shift, yeah. We're moving away from just focusing on domestic production of conventional stuff like tanks and guns.
Right.
This period is squarely focused on Pakistan developing its own missile programs and, ultimately, the nuclear shield. It's high-stakes, high-impact strategic technology.
And the goal wasn't just incremental improvement of the army.
No, not in a linear way. This was designed to fundamentally change the strategic balance in the region, to achieve a level of parity or at least credible deterrence against potentially larger neighbors. It was about securing the nation against what was perceived as an existential threat, a qualitative leap.
And the sources highlight something crucial here: collaboration. Achieving this wasn't just a military engineering task.
Absolutely not. These technologies were incredibly sophisticated, far beyond what HIT or POF were doing at the time. The success here depended entirely on forging a really tight link between two quite different groups: specialist scientists and career military officers.
That must have been complex.
Unprecedented synergy was required. The scientists brought the theoretical knowledge, the R&D horsepower, the high-precision engineering needed for, nuclear physics and missile guidance.
And the military.
The military provided the strategic direction, what capabilities were needed, the operational requirements, and importantly, the secure infrastructure needed for development, testing, and eventual deployment.
I imagine building that bridge, that synergy, was a challenge in itself. The military mind and the scientific mind aren't always perfectly aligned.
Oh, it was a huge institutional learning curve, no doubt. The military had to really get its head around the potential, but also the limitations of these incredibly complex systems. Things like the precise range, payload, readiness drills for missiles.
While the scientists had to ensure their theoretical designs actually met the practical, operational needs of the military.
Exactly. That deep, continuous collaboration was the absolute key to turning scientific theory into a reliable, deployable, high-impact deterrent capability.
So the strategic goal becomes crystal clear. Technology, specifically missile and nuclear tech, becomes the deterrent itself. It's not just a tool for fighting anymore.
It's the primary guarantor of peace, in a sense, or at least the primary tool to prevent large-scale conflict. That's the profound shift in defense policy. Ayub's tech let the country sustain a conventional fight on its own terms. Zia's technology aimed to prevent that fight from ever starting by establishing that credible nuclear and missile deterrent. It created the ultimate cost calculator for any potential aggressor,
raising the stakes to an unacceptable level.
Precisely. The technology itself became the strategic red line.
Which really helps us understand that core lesson the sources identify for this era. Innovation built independence. It's a different kind of independence than the first era.
It is. If Ayub secured industrial independence, the ability to make the tanks, Zia secured strategic independence. It's about self-determination on the world stage, not just self-sufficiency in manufacturing.
That contrast is really important for listeners to grasp, I think.
It's the key takeaway. The whole way you measure technological value changed. It wasn't just about battlefield effectiveness anymore, how many enemy tanks you could knock out.
It was about political impact.
Political consequence, yeah.
Yeah.
De-escalation potential. This high-impact strategic capability gave the nation fundamentally different leverage in foreign policy, a different kind of stability. And interestingly, this shift, focusing on these almost invisible strategic forces. It sort of laid the groundwork mentally for the next big transformation.
Awards.
Towards the digital realm, from physical weapons to the instantaneous flow of data.
Okay, so that brings us to the next phase, the digital era, which the sources link strongly with General Pervez Musharraf. If the first two eras were about maximizing hardware, whether it's steel or missiles, this one seems different. It's about, well, integrating everything digitally.
That's exactly it. It's about moving beyond just having powerful individual pieces of hardware and connecting them all together. The sources pinpoint the introduction of network-centric warfare, or NCW, as the defining feature here.
And this was Pakistan's big step into information age warfare.
Undeniably. It was a crucial first step and also, a very expensive one. Before NCW, you have to picture military units operating more in isolation.
Like silos.
Pretty much a tank unit here, an artillery battery there, maybe some reconnaissance scouts over there.
Yeah.
Mostly communicating via basic analog radio, sometimes even physical messengers. Slow. NCW changes the entire architecture. It's about knitting together sensors, the shooters, like artillery or jets, and the decision makers into one single coherent digital network. The goal is maximizing effectiveness through shared real-time information.
But putting that kind of system in place,
Yeah.
that's not just buying some new radios, is it? It sounds like a massive undertaking, institutionally and financially, especially back in the early 2000s.
Oh, huge.
How did the sources say this massive investment was justified? Surely there was debate about just buying more tanks or planes instead.
There absolutely was. You can imagine the budget meetings. The core justification, according to the sources, was the force multiplier effect.
Yeah.
Meaning that while tanks and missiles give you raw power, digital integration amplifies the effectiveness of every single asset you already have. The argument was, why buy 3 brand new tank battalions if you can make your existing 2 battalions, say, 3 times more effective through instant data sharing and precision targeting?
So it's investment in efficiency and speed.
Exactly. Which in the long run can be cheaper and more decisive than just relying on sheer numbers or mass. NCW promised faster decision-making, better coordination, fewer mistakes like friendly fire.
Okay, to really get what this involved, we need to break down those C4I systems that were introduced. That acronym is key. Command, control, communication, computers, and intelligence.
It really is. C4I is basically the high-speed digital nervous system for a modern military. Let's unpack those elements.
Go ahead.
Okay. Command is straightforward. The central authority, the commander's making decisions. Control is about managing those decisions, issuing orders, tracking units, making sure things happen as planned, but now digitally, instantly.
Right.
The real revolution is in communication. This isn't just crackly voice radio anymore. We're talking secure, high-bandwidth, encrypted digital data links, connecting everything, tanks, planes, drones, soldiers, command posts, regardless of terrain. Huge amounts of data flowing instantly.
That communication shift is massive. It changes the quality of the information itself. Instead of a commander getting a verbal report, maybe an hour old.
They're looking at a real-time digital map. Instantly updated. That fire hose of data gets processed by the computers. You need serious processing power to handle it all, to sift through it, make sense of it.
And what do the computers create with all that data?
They create the Common Operating Picture, or COP. Think of it as a single, unified digital map that everyone on the network sees. It shows the precise location and status of all friendly forces, and importantly, all identified enemy forces. Everyone's looking at the same picture, updated in real time.
Okay, C. The last I is intelligence.
Right, and this isn't just reports coming in slowly. This is real-time, actionable intelligence gathered from everything connected to the network drones, ground sensors, electronic intercepts, you name it. And often, it's being automatically sorted and flagged by those computers using algorithms.
Can you give an example of how that C4I integration works in practice?
Sure. Imagine a drone high overhead spots enemy movement. That data video, location coordinates, feeds instantly into the network. The computers process it, maybe cross-reference it with other intelligence. An alert pops up on the commander's screen showing the threat on the COP. The commander decides to engage, uses the system to issue the order, control, via the secure digital link communication, directly to, say, an artillery unit maybe hundreds of miles away. That unit gets the exact target coordinates derived from the network and can fire with incredible precision, perhaps even before the drone has left the area.
Wow, so it just collapses the time it takes to go from seeing something to acting on it.
Completely.
Yeah.
In the old days, the steel era, information crawled up the chain of command. Decisions were made based on possibly outdated intel, and orders crawled back down.
Slow, prone to errors.
Very. With C4I, situational awareness is near instantaneous. It fundamentally changes the speed and the scope of military operations compared to those earlier analog eras.
How so? The scope.
Well, it allows for simultaneous, synchronized actions across huge distances. Units that used to operate almost independently can now coordinate seamlessly because they all share that same common operating picture. They can react to threats much faster, support each other more effectively. It's the difference between conducting an orchestra with written scores passed around versus everyone having a live feed from the conductor.
So the analysis in the sources points to this key shift. Data flow and situational awareness became the new, most valuable currency for the military.
Massively. The value proposition just flipped. It wasn't just about having the biggest gun anymore. It was about having the most accurate, the most secure, and the most timely information about the entire battlefield.
And this digital integration made the older assets more potent.
Exactly. It ensured that the physical stuff, the tanks from Ayub's time, the missiles from Zia's time, could be used with maximum efficiency, maximum precision, guided by this unified digital brain. The focus shifted irreversibly from just raw physical force
To integrated digital capability.
And that naturally paved the way for the next level, the ultimate level of abstraction, really, automation and AI.
Which brings us right up to the current era, what the sources are calling the Silicon era.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir and really embedding artificial intelligence and deep cybersecurity into the military fabric.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like the final step in that abstraction process we've been tracing, protecting the nation with algorithms.
It's the logical next step, isn't it? Once you've built this incredibly complex, data-rich C4I network, essentially a digital fortress covering the whole military, two things become absolutely critical.
Okay, what are they?
First, you need ways to manage and analyze the sheer volume of data flowing through that network. Humans can only process so much so fast. That's where AI comes in for automation.
Makes sense. And the second thing?
Second, you have to defend the network itself.
Oh.
That digital fortress becomes the primary target. So cybersecurity becomes paramount.
Mm-hmm.
This era recognizes that the main battleground isn't just physical land, sea, or air anymore. It's very much in the digital space.
And the sources get quite specific about the kind of modern infrastructure being put in place to handle this new complex domain. These aren't just upgrades, they seem like entirely new capabilities.
They are. The analysis highlights three critical, interconnected areas, all heavily reliant on developing domestic tech expertise, by the way.
Okay, let's break them down.
First, the establishment of dedicated cybersecurity cells. This is a direct acknowledgement that a vulnerability in your network could be a phishing scam, malware, a denial of service attack, is potentially just as dangerous as a physical attack. Maybe even more so in some cases.
So these cells are defensive?
Primarily, yes. Proactively hunting for threats, patching vulnerabilities, mitigating sophisticated attacks, often from state-level adversaries, defending the digital ramparts, essentially.
Okay, that's defense. The second area sounds more offensive, or at least active. AI drone squadrons.
Right. This is where you see AI automation becoming very visible, very tangible on the battlefield itself, even if the core is silicon.
What kind of functions are we talking about for AI in drones?
Several things. Enhanced target recognition is a big one. Algorithms that can identify specific types of enemy vehicles, equipment, or even personnel, often faster and more reliably than a human operator staring at a screen for hours.
Reducing human error or fatigue.
Exactly. Also, automated flight path planning, letting the drone figure out the most efficient or stealthy route to a target or patrol area. And perhaps most significantly, AI is crucial for swarm technology.
Drone swarms,
Yeah.
like in sci-fi.
Well, maybe not quite Hollywood level yet, but the principle is coordinating multiple autonomous or semi-autonomous drones to work together on complex tasks without needing constant human micromanagement for every single unit. AI handles the coordination.
Okay, cyber defense, AI drones. What's the third area?
The third pillar is the data intelligence centers. You can think of these as the central processing units, the engine rooms for all this high-tech activity.
Handling all the data from the C4I network.
Precisely. They're specialized hubs built to ingest and make sense of the absolutely massive torrents of information flowing constantly. And AI's role here is absolutely vital.
How so?
It helps manage the cognitive load on human analysts. AI algorithms can automatically sift through data, identify anomalies, maybe flag unusual communication patterns that might indicate an impending attack, predict potential enemy movements based on past behavior, spot cyber intrusion attempts.
So it acts like a filter.
An incredibly sophisticated filter, yeah. It prioritizes intelligence streams, ensuring that human decision makers get the most critical, time-sensitive information pushed to them first. It drastically cuts down the time needed to react.
This really does feel like a fundamental shift. Moving beyond just thinking about traditional battlefields, land, air, sea, to actively fighting and defending in this purely digital domain. The sovereignty Ayub sought with steel and Zia with the shield, now it has to be defended with code.
That's the core insight of this Munir era, according to the sources. The modern threat landscape isn't just tanks rolling across borders. It includes incredibly sophisticated cyber attacks, potentially launched from anywhere in the world, that could cripple critical national infrastructure.
Power grids, communication networks, financial systems.
All vulnerable, without a single shot being fired in the traditional sense, that digital space is the new front line. And the AI capabilities aren't just for cool drone stuff. They're absolutely fundamental for defense detecting intrusions, recognizing malicious code patterns, predicting threats within the network, often operating at speeds no human team could match.
This brings us to a really interesting, almost philosophical point the source material raises. The core lesson of this era. In modern war, code is as deadly as gunpowder. That's a powerful statement.
It is.
What does that really imply for how a modern military needs to structure itself?
Right.
Its priorities for training, for resources.
It implies a profound shift in what's valued, what's invested in. It means your top software engineers, your data scientists, your ethical hackers, your cryptographers. They become strategic assets, right up there with your best pilots or special forces operators.
So resources have to shift.
Inevitably. Away from just buying and maintaining more physical hardware, towards recruiting, training, and retaining top-tier digital talent. Investing heavily in things like quantum-resistant encryption, ensuring the physical security of those data centers, constantly updating cyber defenses.
Because the threat is different.
Completely.
Right.
A single, cleverly hidden software vulnerability, a so-called zero-day exploit, or just a few lines of malicious code that could potentially cause far more strategic damage, cripple a nation more effectively than even an expensive missile strike. It makes mastering AI and digital defense an absolute top priority if you want to maintain national sovereignty today. The battle for the future, as the sources suggest, is won as much in the server room as it is on the physical battlefield.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us right up to the present day.
Sure.
Stepping back now, looking at all four eras together, Ayub, Zia, Musharraf, Munir. You really see that constant thread, that drive for sovereignty we talked about at the start.
Definitely.
But the tools, the technologies used to achieve it, they're just worlds apart, from foundries and factories to algorithms and AI.
And we can really map that evolution clearly by revisiting the specific focus of each leader as the sources lay it out. It shows that path from the tangible to the virtual.
Okay, let's recap that lineage. First, Field Marshal Ayub Khan.
His focus, industrial modernization. The goal was foundational. Build it yourself, sustain it yourself, break free from political dependence on foreign suppliers for basic equipment.
Self-sufficiency in steel. Then, General Zia-ul-Haq.
Focus shifts entirely. Nuclear and missile technology. The goal becomes purely strategic deterrence. Achieving parity, or at least preventing large-scale conflict through MAD principles, essentially. Strategic independence.
Next up, General Pervez Musharraf.
Focus. Digital warfare, network-centric operations. The goal is integration, speed, efficiency, using C4I systems to connect everything, making all existing assets work together much more effectively. Digital superiority.
And finally, bringing us to today, Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir.
Focus, AI, and cyber intelligence. The goal now includes foresight, automation, and crucially, protection of the digital domain itself, using advanced algorithms and autonomous systems to defend against threats that might never physically cross a border. Silicon security.
It's fascinating, welding torches to secure servers. Yet, despite this incredible diversity in the how, the sources keep emphasizing the why. That singular, overarching goal connecting all four eras.
And that goal, consistently, is technological sovereignty. It was never just about getting the newest, shiniest piece of kit. It was always about achieving domestic control, mastery, and independence over the critical technologies needed for national defense, whatever those technologies happen to be at that stage of global development. The sources argue this drive to evolve technologically is just baked into the defense planning DNA.
Which leads to that final, quite deep reflection in the source material. This idea that the Army evolved from steel to silicon without losing its soul. And this concluding thought that technology is no longer just a tool, it's become a trust.
That word trust carries a lot of weight here.
What do you think they mean by that? Technology as a trust?
Well, I think it fundamentally reframes the relationship. It's not just about owning a machine anymore. It's about the integrity, the reliability, the security of these incredibly complex systems, especially the AI and cyber systems, systems that might be making autonomous decisions or holding vast amounts of sensitive national data.
So the trust is placed in the systems themselves and the people managing them.
Exactly. It encompasses the ethical development and use of AI, ensuring data isn't corrupted, keeping the systems secure from hackers, guaranteeing the operational competence of the people running them. It's a much heavier, much less tangible kind of responsibility than just, say, making sure a tank's engine is maintained. The strategic focus shifts again, from the physical strength of the tank armor
to the ethical and operational integrity of the algorithms running the show.
Precisely. The core of national defense now relies on the trustworthiness of its silicon heart. Hashtag outro.
Well, this has been a truly comprehensive deep dive. We've traced this dramatic, decades-long transformation in military focus, starting, really, with an industrial revolution in defense, learning to manufacture heavy machinery domestically.
Right, building that foundational capability.
And ending up today with mastering complex, autonomous algorithms, AI-powered drone squadrons, and fighting battles in cyberspace. It's quite the arc.
It really is.
And in every single one of these eras we looked at, the sources make it clear. This aggressive push to adopt and master new technology wasn't optional. It was seen as absolutely necessary for maintaining independence, for staying strategically relevant.
Yeah, that evolution from Ayub's steel base right through to Munir's AI frontier, it shows a constant adaptation, redefining what defense means in response to the changing technological landscape. Always striving to stay ahead, or at least keep pace.
It's no longer enough just to have the strongest physical shield.
No, you have to simultaneously build and constantly secure the most advanced digital fortress as well.
Which brings us back, just for a final thought, to that powerful idea from the source material. Technology is now fundamentally a trust.
And if we think about the implications of that, the bigger picture, the stakes, it leaves us with a pretty significant question, something for you, the listener, to maybe think about after we finish up here.
Okay.
What does it really mean for a nation, for any nation today, when its core defense, its strategic stability, the very integrity of its command systems, when all of that relies so utterly on the absolute security, the reliability, the fidelity of its digital infrastructure, and on the vast, sensitive data sets held within?
Weight of modern defense.
It rests not just on the strength of the steel anymore, but critically on the uncompromised integrity of the silicon. That's the new and arguably much more complex burden of this technological trust.